My wife told me to sleep on the couch until I apologized. She didn't expect what I did instead turned into a night of secrets, revenge, and a truth she never imagined. My wife pointed at the living room, like a judge handing down a sentence. You're sleeping on the couch until you apologize. For what? For helping a neighbor carry a box. I'm 38, my wife Diana is 36, and the other woman in this fiasco is Melissa, 23, new to the street, living with her boyfriend, the end. I was hauling the trash when I saw her fighting a giant box on the sidewalk. I grabbed one side, walked it to her door, said welcome to the neighborhood, and went back to my bin. 2 minutes, tops. No winks. No lingering anything. Diana caught a 2-minute clip through the window and rewrote it as a full-length affair. When I tried to explain, she threw a word I hate like confetti. Don't gaslight me, Trevor. I saw what I saw. You want me on the couch until I admit I cheated by carrying a box? Until you apologize. Okay. She blinked, as if I'd misread my line. That's it. That's it. I'll sleep on the couch until you apologize. Night 1 taught me our couch is a liar, looks soft, sleeps like gravel. My back cracked like an old paperback in the morning. Diana strolled in, found me making coffee. Ready to say you're sorry? Nope. She left with a huff that could have powered a small turbine. By night 3, I migrated. We have a guest room we mostly use as overflow storage and a graveyard for Diana's clothes she swears she'll wear again when blazers come back ironic. I took a pillow and collapsed on the old futon. Better than the couch by exactly 3 vertebrae. The couch not comfy enough? She asked. Nope. Then apologize. No. She smirked like she'd won the first set. I make decent money running projects. She does well in marketing. We split bills and keep separate personal accounts. I'd been saving for a tool set. Instead, I bought myself a spine. Day 4, I ordered a queen memory foam mattress, same week delivery. Day 7, I was in a friend's truck scooping Facebook Marketplace treasures, a leather recliner that had seen better games, a solid wood desk, a 55-inch TV someone was offloading for cheap. I built like a raccoon with a credit card while Diana was at her sister's, reassembling bolts and my dignity. The room took shape fast. Floating shelves. A decent rug that tied the sanity together. A microwave and mini fridge, because being banished doesn't mean starving. On day 14, I tipped into petty. A PS5, a soundbar, blackout curtains. Then my favorite purchase, an electronic keypad lock. If I was going to be exiled, I'd at least control the border. 3 weeks in, the guest room didn't look like exile. It looked like independence. My room. My rules. My playlist. Diana never stepped inside, just knocked and tossed commentary through the door like darts. Then one night, while I was mid-game with my buddy Rick, the handle clicked. The door didn't. Trevor, why is this locked? Privacy. Open it. Now. I'm good. The knocking turned into official banging, then into a speakerphone performance. Mom, he's locked himself in the guest room and won't come out. Teresa's voice boomed like a courtroom mic. Locked? In his own house. He put a code on the door. Why is he in the guest room, honey? Diana hesitated. Then he was flirting with a neighbor. Was he really? Silence. A reluctant sigh. He helped her carry a box. Silence again. Thicker this time. Diana, sweetie, maybe you should apologize. The banging stopped. The hallway went quiet except for my own heartbeat and Rick laughing in my headset. I stared at the keypad, at the room I'd built from stubbornness and foam. In the kitchen, a drawer opened, a utensil clattered. Footsteps returned to my door, slower, heavier, like the weight of a story that suddenly didn't make sense anymore. The handle tested once more. Then her voice, smaller. Trevor, we need to talk. I opened the door a crack. Diana stood there with her arms folded like a crossed-out sign. Are you done being ridiculous? Are you done punishing me for basic human decency? You were flirting with a 60-pound cardboard wardrobe. She tried to shoulder past me. The lock clicked against my palm. Don't. You kicked me out. This is the logical conclusion. It's a guest room, Trevor. Guests are welcome when they apologize for falsely accusing the host. She stared past me at the new mattress, the rug, the shelves. Her gaze stuck to the mini fridge like a moth to a porch light. You really bought appliances. I bought peace. Next morning she tried a new tactic, conditions. You can come back if you apologize. You just invited me back. If you apologize, then no. I spent the weekend finishing touches, cable management, frame prints I'd kept in a tube for years, and a small safe for documents. Petty? Maybe. Comfortable? Absolutely. I even set quiet hours for myself, midnight to 7, headphones after 10. Respect but enforced. Night fell, she knocked again. The couch is for sleeping, not for a tantrum. Then we agree the couch is over. I said couch, not bachelor bunker. Words matter, Diana. So do actions. She huffed off. Minutes later, my phone buzzed, a Venmo request for half the cost of your childish purchases, marital property. I responded with half of the master bedroom I'm not allowed to use. Declined both ways. Silence. For the first time in 3 weeks, the house sounded hollow, like a stage after the actors go home. By Monday, she'd moved from punishment to performance. She cooked a beautiful dinner, plated 2 portions, and ate both at the table where I'd normally sit. I microwaved roasted chicken in my room, the smell of rosemary meeting the smell of butter, each pretending not to know the other. Around midnight, the handle tested again. Softly. Then her voice, fragile and fierce in equal parts. Trevor, if you won't apologize, at least unlock the door. When you unlock your pride. Silence. Then footsteps. Then the faint click of her phone camera in the hall, recording the shut door as if evidence could change what happened at the curb. I lay back on the memory foam and stared at the dark. I hadn't wanted war. I wanted my wife to say 5 words. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Instead, she'd build a hill and ask me to die on it. I decided something while the room hummed softly with the soundbar's idle light. I would not die, here or anywhere, over a lie. And the next morning, I ordered a keypad camera for the hallway. She tried to pivot to logistics. Fine. If you insist on acting single in your room, handle your own laundry. Deal. I found a washer-dryer combo on Craigslist for $400. Hauled it in with Rick, set it near the closet, and ran a drain line to the hall bath. When the first cycle word, a ridiculous surge of satisfaction washed through me. The machine thumped like a tiny drumline, my independence keeping time. She stopped packing my lunch bowls by accident. I meal prepped on Sundays, stacked label containers in my mini fridge, and bought an air fryer that hissed like a loyal cat. The guest room smelled faintly of cardboard and cumin. It smelled like mine. Then came diplomacy theater. She brought her friend Vanessa to mediate. We sat in the living room like it was HR. Trevor, don't you think this has gone far enough? Vanessa asked, palms up. I think it went far enough the second I got sentenced without trial. You turned a guest room into a man cave. I turned exile into ergonomics. Diana tried to escalate. Then I'm taking the master bathroom completely. You can use the hall bath. Okay. She blinked. Vanessa blinked. The house blinked. That's it. Sure. I like short commutes. That night, I transformed the hall bathroom, rainfall showerhead, plants, real towels that didn't feel like sandpaper. I installed a bidet seat because adulthood can be luxurious in the oddest ways. When steam fogged the mirror the next morning, it felt like I finally owned something I'd been paying for all along, my comfort. But control hates a vacuum. She tried to fill it. The Wi-Fi password changed mid-meeting. I hotspot tethered, then called an ISP, and had my own line brought into the room. The tech raised a brow at the SEPR modem. Long story, I said. He nodded like he'd heard 1,000 short versions. That night, her wine club convened in the living room. Laughter, clinking, curated volume. I slid on noise-canceling headphones and watched a quiet movie at thunder volume no one else could hear. When I stepped out for water, Vanessa caught me by the fridge. You're being cruel. No, I'm being clear. Diana stared at me over the rim of a glass, like it could hide whatever was breaking behind her eyes. She wanted me penitent and barefoot on her chosen path. I wanted us equal. Somewhere between those wants, our house became a chessboard. Around 1 a.m., the hallway camera flashed a tiny red blink. Someone fiddled with my door lock. Scratch marks bloomed around the keypad like tiny white scars on paint. I saved the clip. I slept hard. In the morning, a note appeared on the wood. Let me in. I wrote 2 words beneath it. Let me be. Tuesday, I came home to find the lock removed, the door open, my sheets stripped, the mini fridge unplugged and sweating. A paper lay on the desk, maintenance inspection management. We don't have management. I inhaled once. Twice. Called her. You broke into my room. It's not breaking in if I own the house. You removed a lock I paid for and spoiled my food. Prove it. Click. The call ended. Fine. Paper beats temper. I organized. Photos of the scratches. Screenshots of her texts. You're sleeping on the couch. You can come back if you apologize. The police incident number from the time she tried to eject me from my own door. Receipts, dates, the hallway clip. I'm a project manager. Conflict is just scope with bad manners. I didn't yell. I hired an attorney, not for a dramatic divorce scene, but for boundaries you can't scream through. We filed for a formal separation of household spaces, for damages on the destroyed lock, for exclusive use of the guest room, until this circus ended. 3 days later she got served. She cried at the kitchen table, fingers worrying a napkin to shreds. You got a lawyer? You made our marriage into a courtroom. I hired a seat. You're going to destroy us over a lock? Over being kicked out, accused, and then invaded. The lock is a symptom. I'm stressed. Work's a mess. My mom keeps calling. And you abandoned me. You banished me. I adapted. Her lawyer called mine. From the whisper filtered details, even he wasn't impressed. You can't push a spouse out of a bedroom and then claim abandonment when they sleep elsewhere, was the vibe. Not a legal quote, but should be knitted on a pillow. The next evening, she tried sweetness like a scalpel. Lingerie drifted through the hall. A candle burned on the dining table. A pie from my favorite bakery waited under a glass dome like a trap. I ate chili with rice from a prep bowl and worked through a coding course. When she realized the theater wasn't drawing an audience, she went scorched earth hospitality. She invited Melissa and her boyfriend Tony for dinner without telling me. I walked into the scent of garlic and the sight of Diana serving wine like a flight attendant. Trevor, join us, she sang. Getting to know the neighbors. Melissa looked like she'd swallowed a battery. Tony reached out awkwardly. Hey man, I've got plans, I said, lifting a protein shake. Don't be rude, honey. I'm good. Melissa stood so fast her chair hiccuped. Early morning. We should go. Diana's smile cracked. But dessert. Rain check, Tony muttered, steering them out like an emergency exit sign with arms. The front door thudded. Then Diana detonated. You made me look insane. You invited the woman you accused me of wanting into our dining room to prove I didn't want her. I'm trying to save our marriage. By refusing to admit you were wrong. She broke then, not the loud kind, the leaking kind, the kind that fills a hall with the sound of breathing that can't find an anchor. I put the protein shaker in the sink, rinsed it, went back to my room, and closed the door softly. The click sounded final. It wasn't. Not yet. But it was close. She moved out for air, the kind you borrow from your sister's guest bed. A note on the counter, since you want to live alone so badly. I didn't want alone. I wanted equal. But quiet showed up anyway, sat down, and stretched its legs across the house. I filled the time with order. Appraisal appointment. Spreadsheet for assets. Therapy intake. I should have booked that years ago. The therapist asked what I wanted. The truth to matter, I said. She nodded like that was both obvious and rare. On day 2 of the silence, I added a tiny beer fridge because why not 10 small comforts when big ones are sick? I set my alarm to wake at 6, run at dawn, and return to a house that didn't argue. The rooms seemed larger without the tension. Or maybe my chest did. She returned a week later with her brother Kyle, and a U-Haul that coughed decisiveness. I'm taking my things, she announced, marching past me like a parade of one. Okay. And the bedroom furniture. You can have the bed and the dresser. I'll take the nightstands. That's fine, she said, thrown by the lack of friction. Kyle puffed up. You humiliated my sister. She kicked me out for carrying a box. Not what she told me. I'm sure it's not, I said, and showed a receipt when she reached for a TV I'd bought before the wedding. She pivoted to appliances. We split them by receipts and logic, which is to say we argued for 3 hours and solved 30%. Up in the attic, she found a padlock and a tape line dividing the storage, like a kindergarten lesson in fairness. You measured. With a level. I like straight lines. On the stairs, she sagged against the rail. This isn't how it was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? You apologize. You sleep on the couch 2 nights. You miss me. You come back and appreciate me more. Appreciate you for accusing me and exiling me? For fighting for us. I did. I fought for reality. Kyle cleared his throat. We're leaving. You already did, I said quietly. Weeks ago. When the U-Haul door slid down, the house exhaled. My phone buzzed, texts that ricocheted from "I miss you" to "You ruined everything." I typed and deleted a dozen answers. Then I sent one. I won't apologize for what I didn't do. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, came back. No reply landed. Not then. That night, I stood in the doorway of the master bedroom. It felt like a crime scene after the tape comes down, the shape of something ugly still faint on the floor, where light doesn't quite reach. I set the nightstands in place. I let the emptiness be honest. And in my room, the one with the keypad, I slept. Court-mandated mediation, a conference room with bad coffee and a box of tissues that had seen things. The counselor skimmed our intake forms, set the papers down, and looked at us like a weather report. This is significantly eroded trust. Diana sat in a sweater that tried to be soft for her. I was jealous. That's normal. Jealousy is a feeling, the counselor said. Punishment is a choice. He abandoned me. He complied with your boundary. You told him to sleep elsewhere, the counselor said gently. You also tampered with his lock and invited the woman you accused him of flirting with to dinner. That's escalation. Diana's eyes flashed. So everyone's on his side. Again. I'm on the side of a viable process, the counselor replied, which may not exist here. Afterward, my lawyer presented numbers. Buyout options. Equity. The math of endings. I signed the offer. She took it to her attorney, who apparently told her to take it. She didn't. Not yet. There's a stubbornness that masquerades as hope long after it runs out of breath. Back home, I worked, cooked, studied, ran. Peace accumulates in small stacks, folded laundry, sink backups, a cabinet where the Tupperware finally has matching lids. In the evenings, the hallway camera winked and hummed and did nothing because nothing happened. Nothing was good. Then she came back with a new strategy, public opinion. Posts bloomed on her socials. Know your worth. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. I scrolled past like a mature adult and also like a man who had already printed screenshots for the case file. A week later, she tried one last big move. She stood in the kitchen with a folder and a look I remembered from proposal day. A dare wearing perfume. Counseling instead of divorce, she said. We just did counseling. Real counseling. Weekly. 6 months. No lawyers. With an apology? She swallowed. With moving forward. Without admitting you were wrong. I was hurt. And I was honest. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. Mine buzzed. An email from my lawyer, appraisal, revised buyout figure. The timing felt cruel and right. I'm keeping the house, I said. You'll be paid out in full. Her hand tightened on the folder. Over a box? Over respect. She laughed once. It wasn't a happy sound. You're really going to throw away 10 years because you carried one? I'm going to save the next 10 because I won't carry this. She left the folder. It contained printouts of vacations we never took and a menu for a restaurant we loved before we started keeping score. I slid it into a drawer labeled miscellaneous. It felt correct. That night, I texted Rick, help me move the bed back Saturday. He responded with a bicep emoji and bring the good straps. I stared at the screen a long time. Then I turned off the lamp and let the dark make honest shapes of everything we'd been pretending about. Saturday arrived with the smell of dust and straps burning through glove friction. Rick and I lifted the bed frame like pallbearers with better posture. He whistled at the echo in the master. Wild how big a room feels without 2 people resenting each other in it, he said. Shut up and grab the slat. We reassembled, tightened, aligned. When the mattress hit the frame, it thudded like punctuation. I left my gaming setup in the sanctuary. The master bed was for sleeping and reading and maybe someday for something gentle again. Mid-afternoon, a U-Haul shadow crossed the window. Diana and Kyle reappeared for round 2 of division. She moved with a kind of quiet that looked like exhaustion's older sister. I'm taking the dining table, she said. Okay. And that art. It's a print we bought together. You can have it. Kyle tested my boundaries like a fence, tugging at corners, the coffee maker, the rug, the blender. I produced receipts where I had them, conceded when I didn't. He reached for my gaming chair. That was in the guest room originally, he said. It's in my room now. A judge. Then let a judge decide, I said. He let go. Upstairs, Diana found the attic line again. You took more space. I measured. Exactly half. You always did love your rules. They keep things from bleeding together. She looked at me then, really looked, as if measuring what part of me used to be hers. Did you ever love me? I still do. I just love sanity more. They left with a slightly fuller truck and a lot less certainty. I showered in the hall bathroom and sat on the floor of my room with a beer from the tiny fridge. The house felt like a book after the climax, pages left, but the turning different. My phone buzzed, mediation next Thursday, attendance required. Another message followed from an unknown number, we're out front. It was Melissa and Tony with a six-pack and an apologetic shrug. We didn't know if it was weird to come by. Melissa said. It's all weird, I said. Come on in. We sat on the porch, the evening cool and neighborly. Tony lifted a bottle. To moving heavy boxes with no consequences. Amen, I said, and we laughed the kind of laugh that drains poison. When they left, my phone lit with a text from Diana. You turned a guest room into a man cave instead of apologizing. Legend. It should have stung. It didn't. I typed, you turned a misunderstanding into a war instead of talking. Tragedy. I didn't send it. Not everything needs to be said aloud to be true. Inside, the house waited. I switched off lights room by room. The hallway camera blinked once, a tiny star. I slept without headphones for the first time in weeks. Mediation again. The mediator adjusted their glasses and dove in like a lifeguard who knows the current is winning. We're here to divide assets and finalize occupancy, they said. Diana's lawyer had traded the sword for a calculator. Mine had done the same months ago. We reviewed the appraisal, the equity, the buyout, the language about exclusive use. Diana stared at the numbers like they were a poem written in a dialect of loss. I don't want this, she said softly. Neither did I replied. Then why are you doing it? Because I won't live under a lie. Her lawyer tapped a line with a pen. This is a fair offer. My client advises acceptance. Diana laughed, a single syllable. Everyone keeps advising me to give up. To stop fighting a battle that's already over, the mediator corrected gently. She signed. So did I. Pens scratch differently when they end things. On the way out, she stopped me by the elevator. Was it ever about Melissa? No. It was about me needing you to trust me when I told you the truth. I thought if you apologized, it meant you cared. It would have meant I lied to earn peace. That peace always comes due. The elevator doors opened. We didn't step in. We stood in the lobby, two people who had once picked cabinet hardware and laughed in bed, and bought a sectional that, for the record, is terrible for sleeping. Back home, I began the administrative rituals, utilities, titles, insurance. They're small funerals we hold for the living arrangements of our former selves. I set her mail in a neat stack by the door for pickup. I labeled the key I'd give back even though no one asked me to yet. Grief can look like labeling. That evening, I walked the block. The curb where this all began looked exactly the same. Concrete, a little oil stain. A tree that drops needles like punctuation. On Melissa's porch, a new welcome mat. We're glad you're here. I smiled at the dumb, good timing of words. A text pinged. Can we talk? One last time. I typed, tomorrow at 6. Neutral place. She replied, our old restaurant? I wrote, okay. Then I sat on the front steps and watched the sky change colors without hurrying me. Inside, my room glowed soft with LED strips I'd almost forgotten to turn off. I didn't. Tonight, they could burn. Let a few small, harmless things burr a while. We met at the restaurant that knew our anniversaries. The hostess glanced up with that flicker of recognition you can't pretend away. They sat us by the window we always asked for, the one where you can see the reflection of your own face in the glass if you lean. We ordered automatically, her pasta, my steak, a bottle of a wine we used to reach for like a handshake. The silence felt grown-up, like two people signing for a package no one wanted. I was afraid, she said finally. You were so calm. I was trying not to drown. You're good at building things, Trevor. Rooms. Cases. Walls. I was always better at bridges, I said. You just never liked where they led. She toyed with the napkin, folded, refold, built a small white house, and took it apart. If I told you I was sorry now, would it change anything? It would change the past, I said. Not the future. We need the future to be honest. She nodded, tears careful not to smudge. You'll keep the house. I'll keep the house. You'll be okay. Eventually. You too. When the check came, we both reached. We both stopped. We both laughed, and it was so normal and so broken that the waiter looked away to give us privacy from ourselves. Goodbye, Trevor. Bye, Dee. Outside, the air had that clean edge of evenings that want to be remembered. We didn't kiss. We didn't hug. We just walked away carrying small, invisible boxes of who we used to be. At home, I stood in the master bedroom doorway again. It felt different now, less crime scene, more construction site. I made the bed, smoothed the duvet, set a book on the nightstand. In my room, the console light blinked a patient invitation. I let it wait. I opened the window instead and listened to crickets conducting their earnest, ridiculous symphony. My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Heard you're the guy who installs bidets. Asking for a friend. It was Rick being an idiot. I sent a laughing emoji, and tomorrow. Cash only. The night laughed with me, and then let me sleep for real, the kind where morning doesn't feel like debt. Papers filed. Keys exchanged. Utilities updated. The judge's stamp turned a long argument into a short paragraph. When it was done, I walked out of the courthouse lighter and a little hollow, like a building after the tenants move. Back home, I kept the master bedroom simple. The sanctuary stayed mine, screen, sound shelves, small fridge stocked with small joys. Best of both worlds, a place to rest, a place to reboot. I didn't apologize to walls. I did apologize to myself for how long I lived waiting for permission to tell the truth. A week later, Melissa and Tony waved me over for beers. We sat in lawn chairs like responsible teenagers. That dinner was the most awkward hour of my life, Melissa said, cheeks pinking at the memory. Sorry about that. Not your fault, Tony said. But if you ever need a hand with a box. We laughed, and I didn't hate the joke. I've gone on a few coffee dates. I tell the short version. We fell apart because the truth didn't count. People either nod like they've been there, or blink like they can't imagine it. Both reactions are honest. I'll take honest. Sometimes, late, I wander to the curb where this started. I try to picture the alternate timeline where I said sorry to end the fight. In that world, we'd still be together, and I'd still be apologizing for things I didn't do. P-spot on credit always balloons. The last text I ever saved from Diana read, "This is really it, over a box?" I didn't respond then. If I could now, I'd send this. It was never about the box. It was about the wait. I turn off the porch light and head in. The keypad blinks green. The room opens to me the way truth always does, quietly, completely, without bargaining. I set a beer in the tiny fridge, straighten a picture frame, and sit. The house hums. The night trims its noise. And somewhere inside the part of me that measured attic space and installed a rainfall shower head and refused to rehearse a lie, a steady thought settles in like furniture that finally fits. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I just stopped dying on the wrong hill and built a home on the right one.